for the YouTube subscribers. Go subscribe already. Hit the fucking like button and subscribe button. Knock your ass out, man. I ain't fucking with you, man.
UFC Vegas 68, Lewis versus Spivak. Attempt two. If you guys remember, this fight was supposed to happen about a month ago. It didn't due to Lewis pulling out. We had a week off last week. No fight card last week. Brazil card previous. I'll go quickly over that. Go over some of the fights, some of the key fights, the main card as well. Perfect to start 2023. Looking for another perfect card for clients heading into this week. Week card, guys. It's going to be a small client card. If you're interested in getting the card, just giving you guys a heads up. This is not a great card. From a betting standpoint or from a matchup standpoint, in my opinion, we have the road to UFC guys fighting mainly in the prelims. Couple decent fights on the main card. You know, this main event, not a great main event either. So, yeah, don't get too excited for this card, but I'm just excited UFC is back in general. I'll be breaking down the main card, providing free picks, leans, and what to avoid like usual, guys. Systemsportscapping.com to become a client today and start profiting long-term in all sports markets. Each year we profit. In each sport we handicap. Of course, different units every year. Always hoping for a big year in all sports. Guaranteed profitable season to end the year. Social media, guys. Give me a follow over there. System Capping. I'm active on Instagram, Twitter as well. Those are my two biggest social media platforms that I use. Give me a follow over there. System Capping. Like this video, guys. It helps me out a ton. Comment as well if you get a chance. Share as well. UFC Brazil. Let's do a quick recap of that. An impressive win for Hill, right, to start the card. From the top, at least. Very impressive. Beating up Glover in Brazil for 5 rounds, pretty much. He proves he's legit and deserves to be in the title shot. Deserves to be the champion right now. Yuri's right there, though. I think Yuri probably does beat him. But, hey, it's hard to bet against Hill. That's why I stayed off this fight. I didn't bet this fight at all. Only thing I was surprised, maybe the fight went all 5 rounds. Glover, they could have ended the fight, I think, at times, but Glover showed his toughness. He said he wants to go back out there. He got beat up, but, at least in the 5th round, he was able to get the fight down on the ground, control him a little bit. But, just shout out for Glover. Just a true veteran, true legend of this sport. Obviously, he did retire. I just think, maybe a little too old now, taking a little too much damage. And, the young guys are coming in trying to take over this division. He let them do so. It'll be interesting to see if we see Pereira move up to fight Hill, right? Hill's going to have to fight Yuri. If somehow Hill beats Yuri, I wouldn't be surprised if Pereira moves up to get that revenge. That will be interesting. Moreno proved to be the better guy after the 4 fights, right? No question now. Got a finish as well. Hurt his eye. And was able to get the finish there. I leaned Moreno in that fight for video purposes, but I did not bet it. I did think it was going to be a close fight. We should see Moreno versus Pantoja next. I'm excited about that one. Fresh fight in this division, right? Fresh championship fight. We've seen these guys fight for years now. So I'm excited. I like Pantoja. I think that would be a good fight. Burns, right? Finds the sub. I did think if he was going to get a finish, it would be by sub. And he was able to get the finish in the first round. Maybe a little quicker than I expected. But, I was all over Burns in that fight. Magny's no slouch, so finishing him in the first round is very impressive. Burns has looked very impressive as of late. Looks like he's going to be getting Masvidal. And, I think it's a tough fight for Masvidal. Especially if Burns get the fight down to the ground. Masvidal's chance, obviously, if Burns decides to make it a slugfest, similar to Khamzat fight. Maybe Masvidal can catch him there, but if this fight gets down to the ground, I think Burns finds a submission at some point there. Andrade just beat up Murphy for 3 rounds, which I expected. I expect Murphy, I mentioned on the video, I expected to take the punishment and last the decision, and that's what she did. Very durable, very strong. Andrade just looked so much better. The skills were so much better than Murphy. Andrade should get that next title shot very soon. Walker. All right, I was all over Walker last week, 2 weeks ago. Caught Paul, which I expected at some point. I expected his power to hurt Paul at some point. and he did. First round, I think it was first round finish. Obviously, Paul's trying to go for the takedown, grab your leg, and it just wasn't going to happen with Walker. Too big, too strong, and he got the finish. Should be in the top 10. Let's do a weekly update, guys. All sports. Weekly update, all sports. We stay perfect in the UFC for 2023. Back-to-back perfect client cards, 5-0 on the year. 7-1 going back to 3 cards. Last card of 2022. Just under 60 units, guys. 65% best bets over 5 years. NFL playoffs has been kind, guys. All 3 weekends have been profitable in the NFL playoffs. 2-0 best bets in that time frame. We hit our main future, playoff future, 49ers versus Eagles, NFC Finals, plus 220. Great price there. That was a full unit bet. Sitting on KC over Eagles future ticket at plus 1100. So yes, I'll be betting the Eagles in the straight up market here to cover ourselves in case they do win. I think they definitely do. If I had to play the bet, it would be Eagles. I'll be talking about that in the Super Bowl video coming out next week in great detail. So look out for that. NHL. What can I say about the NHL, guys? Best sport right now, long term. 70-36. The last 2 seasons, 67%. Just under 20 years. Has to be the highest in the market. I don't follow all the market, but this has to be the highest documented in the market. System works so well with the NHL. Continue to hit system plays only. 1 to 4 NHL bets a week. And I don't force anything. 1 to 4 bets a week in the NHL. We hit a nice winner last night with Boston. Great spot before the All-Star break to avoid 4 straight over the Leafs. NHL will be back Monday. So we will continue to expose the books then. NBA, very low volume. In the NBA. Didn't have a bet for almost 2 weeks. Pulled the trigger on Utah last night, -3. What happened? They pushed. They won by 3. That's okay. We get our money back there. You know, I'm happy with the long-term NBA numbers here. We don't have a ton of volume. These numbers are for the last 2 seasons. So you can tell I pick my spots in the NBA. PGA's only slow start so far to start the year in the prop market. Some bad luck last week with some bad beats in the prop market. We'll be getting going, though, in the prop market here. Hopefully it is at Pebble Beach this week. Let's hear from my friend Meredith before we get into this card.
Guys, Meredith Gorman here, and are you still not subscribed to Matt's channel? Well, if you're not, hit the subscribe button because he's giving out free picks each and every week. Hope you have a good rest of your day.
Shop around, guys. Shop around for the best prices. Have multiple books. It's going to help a lot. It's going to help a lot for prop options. It's going to help for prices. Prices do vary from book to book. So try to have multiple to get the best price. Here we go. Lewis plus 190 versus Spivak minus 230. You know, I broke down this fight a month ago. So if you guys watch my videos all the time, you may remember that. I'll go over it again here, though, of course. You know, nothing really changes. We know how this fight could go, right? Lewis wins by catching Spivak on the feet with a big power shot. That's pretty much his only path to victory. Lewis isn't winning a decision, guys. His volume's too low to do that. And he's not going to submit you, right, on the ground, right? So his only path to victory, like most of his fights, is to catch you, and he does it. He does it at times, right? So it's not like that's... I think most of the time if you say, oh, this guy has to only win by knockout, it's going to be a low percentage. With Lewis, it's going to be in the higher percentile of him catching you because that's what he does to win fights, right? Now, Lewis does look slimmer. He looks like he's in better shape for this one. Lost some weight. Now, I don't know if that's a good thing. He'll probably be faster. Maybe his cardio will be better. But is it good for fighting a big guy like Spivak who wrestles and likes to hold you down to the ground? I don't think so, right? Spivak usually gets his other guys down to the ground. They're 260 heavy guys, and he has no problem getting them down. Lewis not the best wrestler, not the best takedown defense. You know, that's going to affect them here. He's not going to be as heavy and maybe possibly as strong. So Spivak's going to have that advantage here. And look at his takedowns average. Over 4, guys. That's very high. Over 4. So I expect Spivak to get this fight down to the ground at some point. And when he's down there, can he keep him down there? That's the big question, right? That's what we're going to see. Spivak has had success doing it before. And I do think Spivak can find a TKO finish at some point down on the ground, or a submission. You know, Spivak does have 6 submissions. We don't see it a ton, but he does have the 6 submissions. A lot maybe in the amateur more, but he does also have them in the UFC. So I think that could be a path here for Spivak. Spivak's going to have the wrestling advantage. He's going to have the volume advantage on the feet. I just don't think he should keep it there too long on the feet. I think he should try to grapple and get this fight to the ground, and he's going to have the wrestling advantage here. Right? In most fights, what does Lewis have? The power advantage. But again, he lost weight, guys. Watch the weigh-ins. He may not have the power advantage anymore, right? He's going to have that one power shot advantage, yes. And the speed may be there. Spivak's not quick by all means, but, you know, Lewis slimming down, we're going to have to see how that looks on the feet. But what I'm trying to say is, you know, if this wasn't going to be just a stand-up fight, sure, I would favor Lewis a little more here. But Spivak has that wrestling in the back pocket, and that's what he goes to. He has the 4 takedowns, like I mentioned, as a very notable stat here. So what I think Spivak does is just wrestle, get this fight down to the ground. Hopefully he can keep him there. Find a TKO or submission at some point. Right? If Derek Lewis is in a fight, you're not going to bet the fight to go to the decision, and you're not going to bet the other fighter or Lewis to win by decision. So what you probably want to look at here, obviously, would be Spivak at finish for some point, either a TKO or a submission at some point to get a better price. Right? The minus 230, I think it's accurate. It's just not an appealing number to bet straight at minus 230. So if you can find the fight to finish, plus money. Maybe look at a TKO finish. I don't think he's going to knock him out on the feet, but I can see a TKO style finish or a submission as well. I can find a submission. Lewis not the easiest guy to submit, but that's the way I would look. Just a big grappling and wrestling advantage for Spivak. Still young. You can say he's in his prime coming up still. 15-3 is nice. And I do think he finds a win here. I just think Lewis is 1 foot out the door, guys. Health concerns as well with him. He had to pull out from his last fight. He said it was COVID complications. I don't really know. I know he had some eating issue, some diet issues as well. So there's a lot of concerns here with Lewis. Again, yes, he can knock him out. That's how he wins fights. But it's just low percentage. If you look at percentage-wise, you bet Spivak. If you know how to bet on percentages and ways to win fights, Lewis's way to win the fight is just by a KO or TKO. And he has to catch him on the feet, hurt him, maybe jump on top of him, ground and pound him, right? That's the TKO style. But it's just lower odds, right? The odds that Spivak win this fight is better than 2-1 in my opinion. So I like Spivak here. I think he gets it done on the ground in some capacity. Zhang minus 240 versus Clark plus 200. This could be a sneaky good fight. Both guys coming off losses and can stand and bang. We know that. Both guys do have some cardio issues, which is to mention here. And I expect there to be a finish here at some point. Would I be surprised if it goes maybe 3rd round type of finish and, you know, some guy wins due to the gas tank? No, I wouldn't be surprised. I can see this fight going a few rounds at least. A key stat that catches my eye here is volume, right? Clark doesn't throw a ton, and that's always his issue. Under 3 landed per minute. You know, Clark, in my opinion, will need to try to wrestle and grapple and get this fight down to the ground. Clark, remember, he fights at heavyweight sometimes. He's a big boy, Clark. Big frame. He has fought at heavyweight before. They've asked him to fight at heavyweight because he's so big. I don't know how his cuts are. Always watch weigh-ins with Clark in Clark fights. This guy cuts a lot. He's a big guy. You know, Zhang obviously can't wrestle. He has some takedowns as well, but his path will be to keep this one on the feet. I do have Clark as a stronger and better wrestler. So I don't think Zhang can just take this guy down. So Zhang's going to want to keep this on the feet and win by volume, in my opinion. But if Clark can get this fight down to the ground and expose the wrestling and use his strength here, he's a path here at plus 200. You know, I do like Zhang as, you know, the better striker, and overall probably the better fighter. But 240, guys, I cannot bet this at minus 240. Right? Clark has a path here to win the fight. So looking at plus 200, there's value there on Clark. I wouldn't call you crazy if you put a small unit there on Devin Clark. It's just probably won't make my client card. If I had to bet this fight, it would look at a volume standpoint. But yeah, Zhang should win this fight on the feet due to volume. He should be able to piece Clark up enough, maybe hurt him at times on the feet, and we could see Zhang bouncing back here. But like I mentioned, both guys have questionable cardio, which scares me. Whose cardio tank is going to last, right? That's what you're kind of betting on in here. And can Clark wrestle and grapple enough to keep Zhang down and avoid the striking situations back and forth between these two? That's what you're backing on this fight. Probably won't make my client card. There is value with Clark at plus 200, though. Tybora, minus 140 versus Ivanov. We got some mid-tier heavyweight guys. Decent price here at Tybora. In a matchup where I do think he has maybe a few more advantages. Nice reach would be the first one, 5-inch reach. His only loss in the last 4 years has been to Volkov, guys. Keep that in mind. Close fight as well. Highly talked about. He had a nice win over Romanov. That was a highly talked about guy in this division, and he was able to win that fight, Tybora. It was an impressive win. Close fight on paper, we could see here, right? Ivanov, we know he's tough. He's durable. He can take a shot. He'll keep coming forward. Gas tank's an issue, though, later in the fight. And he's just so slow. He's so slow, guys. Tabora's going to be quicker on the feet. He could use that, style he has. He has nice kicks as well. He's not going to just stand and want to bang and box with Ivanov. Ivanov does have some decent boxing. And I do think the wrestling's fairly close. It would be interesting to see if these guys do grapple, what will happen there. Because I do think it's fairly close in the wrestling department. So I'm just going to lean Tybora to be the faster fighter here. I think it's going to be a close, probably either late finish or decision win. And I'm going to have to lean Tybora here. The price is decent. You can shop around. I think there's some minus 130s out there as well. So I'm going to have to lean Tybora here. Could make my client card. Haven't bet it as of yet. I can't back it. Ivanov. He just has toughness, sure. But the volume is not there. I don't think he's going to be able to exploit him in the wrestling department. Ivanov could get the fight down to the ground, but could he keep Tybora there? We don't know, right? We're going to have to see. But, yeah, I just can't back Ivanov at this point. I'll have to back the Polish fighter. Troy, minus 190 versus Nelson, plus 160. A tough one here, guys. Troy hasn't fought since 2019, right, due to military service in Korea. Right, he did end that run, though, before he left to go to the military. He lost 3 in a row against good fighters, though, right? He has the experience against some good fighters, Cub Swanson, Jeremy Stevens, and Jourdain. All 3 losses in a row. Exciting fighter. He has volume. He can throw. Nelson, though, he's a veteran guy. He brings it every time. Usually falls short. Back-to-back losses to Herbert and Billy Q. No slouches there. His only win, though, right? Let's look at this. His only win versus, his last win was in 2019 versus Marco Polo Reyes, a 10-8 fighter who doesn't fight anymore in the UFC. And guys, his name's Marco Polo. So just that's his only win, right? I haven't seen Troy for 3 years or so. So how could I bet this one? You can't bet this one on minus 190. You haven't seen the guy fought for 3 years. How much has he been training? How much has he been in the military? I don't know, right? Yes, I think he has more skills than Nelson. I do think he should win this fight, but I don't want to find out. Me, guys, guys that have been on layoffs for 2 or more years, I usually stay away and watch and see. Watch and see, jot it down, wait for the next fight. That's what I suggest here you guys do. I lean Nelson's for video purposes. I lean Troy for video purposes, but I just don't know. Nelson, like I mentioned, only has 1 win since 2019. It's a very low-level guy. But what does Troy have coming back? You don't know. So, if you're a degenerate and you want to just bet this fight, it has to be, you have to maybe look Troy's way. But I, as a professional sports handicapper, I say pass on this fight because there's too many unknowns. Too many unknowns on Troy, on how he will look. Unless you have a path into his training camp, and I don't, unfortunately. So stay away from this one. I always usually give 1 or 2 fights to stay away from on the card. This would be one of them. Kinoshita, minus 130 versus Fugit, plus 240. A lot of respect from the books for the Japanese fighter here, and I get it. He looked impressive on the Dana White Contender Series. Fugit lost his debut in the UFC to Morales, and he got finished in that fight in the 3rd round. Notable reach advantage for Fugit, 6 inches, but he's not going to be able to use it, I think, because Kinoshita, the Japanese fighter, will be a lot quicker on the feet and the better striker. Fugit's path actually is to try to wrestle and get this fight down to the ground. That would be his path. I don't think he's that pure of a wrestler or he doesn't have great takedowns to get the fight there a ton. He did get Morales down to the ground, wasn't able to keep it there long enough. And I think Kanisha is going to be able to keep the fight on the feet enough and expose him on the feet, either by volume, maybe a late finish. He does have some finishes under his belt in the regional scene. And he's a good prospect coming into this fight for the UFC. They want to try to get some more Japanese fighters on their card. This could be one of them. So I'm going to lean here. I can't bet it at minus 300. It is his debut. Keep that in mind as well. And Fugit's a veteran. He's a veteran. He doesn't have a ton of fights on his belt. He's in his mid-30s. And Kishinita obviously young, right? So I get a little worried about that, right? A little worried, Kishinita's 22, debut. Prospect does have the capabilities of being a UFC fighter, of course, and does have some nice finishes under his belt. And it is a fairly softball opponent here with Fugit. But like I mentioned, Fugit does probably have a wrestling advantage here, so that could scare me at times. If he's smart and does fight like a veteran and he's able to keep this fight down to the ground, he could win this fight. So Kanisha will be the play here for video purposes, but I won't be betting it for clients. That will do it, guys. That will do it. UFC is back, which I'm happy about. One of the best sports, of course, that I handicap. Look out for my Super Bowl video. It's going to be out early next week, so I have it out probably for a full week. Probably out on Monday or Tuesday, so look out for that. I have fun with props and different type of bets and maybe do a little recap of the playoffs, etc. So look out for that. Oh, like I always say, guys, bet smart and know your limits. Take care.